Thank you so much for taking time out to be part of this very pertinent conversation. And I would like to say that we have a formidable panel of speakers that are going to really give context and lay the groundwork for the issue at hand. Just a quick introduction. My name is Martha Tukahirwa, and I work with an organization called the Strategic Initiative for Women in the Horn of Africa, better known as SIHA Network. I currently work as the Regional Advocacy and Communications Officer. And SIHA is a network of grassroots women-led civil society organizations that does a lot of work around gender and social justice within the Horn of Africa. I am very happy to be moderating this conversation that has been organized by Akina Mama Afrika in collaboration with Friedrich, Ebert, Stiftung. And I'm very happy that we are discussing that is very important during these very unprecedented times. And we have many people that are going to plug into the conversation. Just to make sure that we are managing, the structure of this conversation, I will start off with really just, laying the groundwork and giving an introduction to the topic at hand. And then I will invite our panelists. And we have a panel of about 8 people, 8 fantastic women that will be able to share their knowledge, their lived realities. And then at a later stage, I will invite people to, within the conversation, you are free to put in any sort of comments, if you have any submissions, questions in the chat box, which will then be addressed at a later stage. And you'll also be invited to make, verbal interventions if you don't want to only do that on the chat box. And then we shall close the webinar. So just to really give some sort of introduction to the topic, the informal economy, and the impact of COVID on the economy. Over the past 5 to 6 months, we have witnessed, this gruesome pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, ripped through the world, and really, and this has triggered lockdown in very many nations across Africa and of course across the world. And whereas these lockdown measures have been good in terms of curbing the spread of the pandemic, unfortunately, this has meant that many vulnerable communities and people, especially those that depend on the informal economy, have been affected. And really, we're looking at the vulnerabilities being exacerbated. People are going, the level of poverty is going higher, and really, we're looking at really a very fragile structure for us here. The current models, the current policy models have always, even pre-COVID-19, they always deepened in economic inequality by exploiting labor. And whereas I say labor, I say women's labor, both in the private setting, so at home, and then in the public setting when they're outside of their domestic setting. And this increased their invisibility. These are women who are poorly paid. There is no social safety net whatsoever. And, whereas these women are working very precarious jobs, they're also being exposed to other vulnerabilities that increase, that have left their well-being in danger, but also really all the people that depend on them are now suffering as a result. And I think it's safe to say that the economies of the global south are literally carried on the backs of these women. And they're still not acknowledged, their issues are not addressed in policy, and really so many are being left behind. And for us in Siha, we have actually dubbed women working in the informal economy invisible laborers, because they're invisible to policy makers, they're invisible to any structural changes that are being made, and really their survival is really based on very meager resources. So without further ado, I really want to invite the next speaker. I want to invite the first speaker, Hope Kasimbazi, who is the board member of Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association Limited. And I would like to invite Hope to provide a broad context of what the experiences of women entrepreneurs are within this COVID situation. And basically talk about whether the response by government has been adequate or inadequate, and really bring out the lived realities that you have interfaced with. Thank you, Hope. You have the floor.
Thank you, moderator. Good morning to you, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please
Good morning.
Good morning to you, madam.
Could you kindly upload my presentation?
Sorry?
Presentation, please.
No, Hope, give me a second, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Hope.
Okay, can you put it down? Then I'll just have to read through quickly so that I take less time. Yes, Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association is the company I am getting blocked. There are some words that are covered by the moderator. Can you adjust, please? Hello? Okay, Uganda Women okay. The one up, Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association. Yeah, Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association, common known as UWIL, is a registered company limited by guarantee, and it has been in existence since 1987, making it 33 years old. It is a member-based organization, and it was founded by 4 visionary women in business who wanted to uphold and empower grassroots women for sustainable livelihood and survival. Oh, the next. The brave women who were set up to handle the social cultural perception created a platform to promote women entrepreneurs to grow their businesses, network, advocate, and have a conducive business environment. These ladies incorporated the association when the idea of women in business was a taboo in Uganda. Next slide. So at UWIL, we have a vision, mission, and we are proud of those vision and mission. We create a wealthy woman who also create a wealthy nation. And our mission is to empower women to create wealth through capacity building, networking, and advocacy. Our mandate is capacity building, networking, and advocacy. So what do we do in capacity building? We empower women in business to address social and economic challenges faced in establishing their businesses and to ensure that their enterprises are sustainable. We tailor-make some of the capacity building programs to educate and sensitize women in business on available opportunities for entrepreneurial development. We also, under the capacity building, we have very many programs, but briefly, we have business counseling sessions, enterprise institute trainings, membership or mentorship programs, girl entrepreneur programs. And when it comes to networking as one of our mandate, you will believe that giving women an opportunity to expose, we give women an opportunity to expose for exposure. Part of my presentation is covered by the moderator's photo. So I repeat this, you will believe that giving women an opportunity to go exposed in a range of local, regional, and international business, international business and marketing opportunities, encourage them to improve their level of production and exploitation regionally, globally. We have had women, we have sent women abroad. Very many women have been exposed. If I tell you a number of them, you'll not believe it. But we have like this Victorious, the owner of Victorious, Madame Muyondo. She has traveled. We have Tears, she has traveled, and many others. Next slide, please. So when we are networking, we have tailor-made programs. One of them is monthly breakfast meeting, where we get specialized speakers and they give us different knowledge, different tips, different everything. Then we have membership interface. We allow the business ladies and members of UWIL to come and interface and exhibit their products. And so doing, we have had partnership, we have sold our products, we have shared experience, and we have improved in the way we do our businesses. Then we hold an annual Women in Business Leadership Conference. Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association, being the strongest association in Uganda for women, was selected by International Labour Organization to host Month of Women Entrepreneurs. So every month, which is November, we have activities that run from the first up to the end. And then at the end of the month, that is November, we hold awards gala dinner. We could recognize distinguished ladies that have made it in business so that others are encouraged to be like them. Next, please. Advocacy, you have read, I don't want to take much time, but we always do the need for a gender-responsive public procurement. We have been advocating, and I think we're almost there. We requested for 50, but the government is zeroing on giving us 30% so that women are able to participate in the public procurement, which is government, and government has money. If you do government work, you're able to be paid. We have been at it, and we are able to get some funding from UN Women. We are very grateful to train women, to prepare women to participate in the public procurement. Then we have widening of access to finance for women. UWIL started a Women Investment Club. We have that club, and women keep going to borrow money, they save, and it has helped them to expand their businesses. We also promote gender equality. Then we advocate for the establishment of incubation and innovation business center. UWIL has a piece of land at Namvamve Industrial Park, and we are in the process of setting up an incubation center where women will come with their ideas and with their products. We help them to make the products so that they meet the required standards and do good packaging. We are looking at these women to export their products. Then we ensure the active participation of women in business in the oil and gas. We have had very many meetings supported by DFCU, Chamber of Oil and Gas, to make sure that we prepare women so that they are able to take advantage on the new business at hand. We also have partnership with the UNDP on the gender certification seal program, whereby we encourage women to also participate and have equal rights like men at the workplace. And this can help in productivity and profitability and productivity. So when we are doing all this, we have a process. We start training women, we form a women association, we document to create the heroes, then we do policy dialogue, and we hold a round table meeting or meetings so that we look at what we have achieved, and if we have not achieved what we had planned, and how can we improve? How can we move ahead? I'm about to finish. Yes, UWIL is a membership organization. We have individual business women. We have women in business, the groups. We have even chapters. We have chapters all over the country. Then we have corporate members, women who come as companies. Next, please. Well, we boast of a membership of over 15,000 individuals, of which some of them are indirect members, about 800 of them or even more. Then we have 10 corporate members, 18 women groups, and we have the Young Girls Entrepreneurs Club. Then we cover our coverage is in 40 districts of Uganda. We have chapters, and those chapters are located in the 40 districts in Uganda. We have 12 cooperatives in 6 hubs. That is communication. We try to make sure that any message we have at the headquarters, which is in the Umasho grounds, warehouse, we make sure that we share that information and it reaches the grassroots. Then the members also include, aspiring business women, professional women, women groups, and women-led businesses. Thank you. We have 11 sectors: food processing and agribusiness, animal industry, manufacturers, handcrafts and ceramics, education, textiles and garments, furniture and interior design, hospitality and tourism, of course, professional women, as I have said, construction and extraction. You not believe there are very many women in construction, then oil and gas. We have a wide range of partners, as you have seen there: UN Women, FINCA, FEMCOM. FEMCOM is an arm of business women under the COMESA. We have Trademark East Africa. We have Vital Voices, East African Business Council. We have an arm for women, which is called IWIP. Yes, please.
Hope, I think we
yes, I can hear you. What? I can hear you. I can hear you. Yes, as I conclude the introduction, UWIL, having stayed in the business for 33 years, it has gained credibility as the most outstanding women's association in the East African region. Are you still with me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. So right now, I am ready to answer the questions which were said to me. Can I proceed?
Yes, you can, Hope. You can proceed.
Okay, so I'll read the questions and I give the answers. The first question was, what has been the impact of COVID-19 on the women entrepreneurs in the informal sector? I must start by saying the whole world is in crisis management and disarray, and both rich and poor are hit by the storm. There is need to manage the situation. So this so-called COVID prompted a complete nationwide lockdown, and it was a shock to all women entrepreneurs who constitute approximately 85 to 90% of the business community in Uganda. And this came at the time when businesses were thriving with wider networks, new products, and ready market. But to their surprise, it all came to a standstill in one day. I am also the affected. That is the story for another day. So most entrepreneurs own informal businesses, which are typical example of vending. Their businesses are not registered, regulated, insured, have no address, no plan, operate at random, no definite source of funding, do not keep books of accounts, use borrowed money from relatives, friends, and earn on a daily basis. That means their livelihood is from hand to mouth. Hence, they are unable to accrue or reserve savings for the future. The women entrepreneurs also deal in perishable items and are thus prone to hostility from law enforcement officers. They interface with thieves, competitors. There is violence, sexual harassment, cheating, and climate change. Like if you are hawking your items, you have a business not in a shelter. In the case of rain, what happens? So these women or entrepreneurs, so-called, they have no protection and a platform to run to in case of trouble. To make matters worse, these women entrepreneurs who are mostly single mothers, but not by choice, fully cater for their families' livelihood in terms of food, clothing, housing, schooling, safety, security, medical treatment, care for children, elderly, and sick. They earn meager resources from their pet business and yet shoulder the burden of reproductive and productive roles at household level. The current state of affairs is that women entrepreneurs with their families are now jobless and starving. So what does that mean? They are starving because their livelihood is constrained, because they were self-employed, and it is disrupted. Most of them deal in agri-food supply chains, but now it's no more. The market is not available. There is unemployment, underemployment, there is labor, child labor, early pregnancies, domestic violence, separation and divorce, desertion. We have a problem of what they call coping. Those few women who had saved or bought assets, they have ended up selling those assets in order to rescue the situation and getting risky loans, especially from money lenders. This is resulting to them being very, very vulnerable. So we are in a state of quagmire, as people call it. So these women, they were living hand to mouth, but now what are they doing? They are just stuck. It's very sad. Then, as if that's not enough, of course, now they have restricted movements, and their customer base is completely hampered with low purchase power these days, closure of business, the life has reached that standstill. Are you still there? Am I still audible? Am I still audible?
Yes, you are, Hope. I would request that you wind up actually, so that
Yes, I'm going to the second question. How adequate has the response from government and other duty bearers been to the impact of this pandemic? I take this opportunity to commend the government of Uganda for the inclusive approach they have taken to address the crisis at hand. The president formed with the prime minister, they formed a platform, the national task force that has included the SMEs. Unfortunately, at UWIR, our chairperson, Madam Angela Bagene, is a member who is also a member of private sector representing the SMEs. She has been on that task force, and she has been collecting views from members to see how they can be assisted, and she has done it, and some members have been assisted. There are business opportunities that we're trying to make sure that these members access. Then we have also tried to advocate for better business environment. Then, since my time is running out, we are also looking at partnerships. The ladies, you might find the ladies are supplying items in small quantities, but we are trying to mobilize them so that they do it as a group, if possible, form cooperatives. And what are the key demands to government and civil servants to ensure that investment of women are responsive? As I have said, we have tried to make sure that we advocate. Our mandate is to advocate for good business environment, and we have been mobilizing. We have reached all stakeholders. We have reached the donor community. We have reached everybody to make sure that these business women who support the nation, they support the citizens, are supported. I had wanted to share a story of how I started my business, but since my time is running out, I don't know whether I still have like 5 minutes. Moderator, do I still have 5 minutes?
Unfortunately, you've eaten into another slot. So I'll ask you to
just wind up. Then let me conclude by thanking you for giving UWIR this opportunity, and to tell you that we are growing a wealthy women and wealthy nation. Thank you so much. I'm very sorry for having eaten up in the time. I didn't realize that.
Thank you so much, Hope. This was a very informative presentation, and we're very happy to learn of the achievements that UWIL has made over the past couple of years. And you've spoken to a number of very important issues. It's great that one of your pillars is advocacy, and I believe in order to draw the linkages between what UWIL is doing and this conversation, it's important to focus on that. There are some pertinent things you brought up. So you talked about how you've been doing a lot of advocacy around, access to finance for women entrepreneurs. And I think as we speak about women who are working in the informal economy, how accessible are these finance, structures and mechanisms to these women who are active in the informal economy? You've talked about innovation and incubation hubs, which is very, very, very interesting. Again, how accessible are these hubs to women in the informal economy, especially now when we get into the post-COVID situation and what that is going to come along with that. You've also spoken about very many issues that we are going to talk about, and that is really, no savings. So women do not have, the women entrepreneurs, and especially women who are active in the informal economy, have not accrued savings. In a lot of the work that SIHA has been doing, we've been doing a lot of documentation of the lived experiences of these women. And one of the women shared with us that, you know, she had accrued some savings that would hopefully take her through the lockdown. But unfortunately, we're having, you know, she talked about her partner now having to tap into those savings, you know? So what has that meant in terms of, you know, security for the future? You've talked about sexual harassment. It has been pervasive. Literally, we have looked at, there is something that we talk about, the militarization of urban spaces and even rural spaces. What has that meant for those women and men who are active in the informal economy? And you've also talked about, you know, the low purchasing power and very many other issues that I hope we will be able to discuss when we have interventions from the rest of the participants. Now, for the next slot, I would like to invite, we have 5 women who are active in the informal economy. We would like to invite them to share their testimonials, what has been their experience within their sector during this situation of COVID-19. And also, I would like to invite them to speak about what is their key demand to government and civil society, those of us who are within this space, to ensure that their needs are met. So I don't know if Catherine is here. Catherine Wanyama is a market entrepreneur in Nakawa Market. I would like to invite her to speak. Catherine, you have 7 minutes. I want to see if Catherine is here.
She is.
Okay, Catherine, you have 7 minutes. Hello, Catherine. I don't know, your mic might be muted.
Martha, I think we can just go on to the next person as she sorts out that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll invite Catherine at a later stage. Hanifa Katwesije, the chairperson of Uganda Domestic Workers Association. You are here, I can see you. Please, you have the floor, 7 minutes. Hanifa, you're muted, your microphone is on mute. If you can unmute yourself. Hanifa? Yes, now you
Yes,
are.
please.
Please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be with you this morning. I'm Katwesige Hanifa, Chairperson, Domestic Workers Association. I'm indeed grateful for joining this discussion. The experience I've had as a domestic worker and at the same time, a domestic worker leader has a lot to discuss. First and foremost, domestic workers were not being recognized all along, but it's just of now that we have we have registered association, and we have leaders who are working and helping our domestic workers. In this regard, I'm going to talk about the challenges fellow domestic workers have gone through. Actually, during the course, a number of domestic workers were stopped from work. They were hindered. Whatsoever they tried to come across, they were not allowed to be in touch with anything concerning, more especially, the working places were quite unique in a way that there are those domestic workers who live in, and there are those domestic workers who are live out. So all these people have faced different challenges. Those who are living, these domestic workers had a problem with in the homes of their bosses, having seen that the bosses were no longer working. They could stay at home. And what you should know is, during that time, most bosses, that is the employers, in most cases, we ladies are a problem to our domestic workers. We don't recognize our domestic workers. Hanifa, I've been moving on during the course. I've been moving on, solving problems of our domestic workers, which has affected a number of our domestic workers. These workers have had problems like they could not be paid full amount of the salary as they had agreed upon. You find that bosses are around the husband and the wife, whereby the husband can be positive, and you find that he can allow a domestic worker to continue with her work. But when it comes to sorry, when it comes to delay, when it comes to our bosses, more especially the ladies, they are always negative. They have a negative attitude. They don't allow us to do our work freely when they're at home. And they really, however much you work, you find that she is always in disagreements. Although there are some who accept whatever you are doing. Domestic workers have been in a struggle of at least being engaged on the jobs, but the jobs have not been good for them. They have been on a negative side. The domestic workers themselves have always called me to go and intervene on domestic violence related issues. Because as a domestic worker, in most cases, you are supposed to be taken as somebody, let me say, part of the family, although you are not fully part of the family, but as you stand, you represent a lot. Whenever somebody leaves a home, you know, you leave the home for a domestic worker, whereby she has to ensure, or he has to ensure, the security in your home. And whatever transpires when you are not there, really it is her duty or his duty. Another thing is domestic workers were failing to go for their work because, you know, the transport itself had been cut off. You know, the pandemic as it has been, and I think it is still going on. But we thank God that we have a bit of relief because most of these domestic workers have gone back to their work. They have changed the employers, not affirmatively as it would have been, but they have been forced into changing the employers, because some of the employers never allowed any more workers in their home states. In fact, it's really, it has been really a struggle to see to it that a domestic worker can work up to now and can assist, since we have a big part we play both in homes and in the government at large, because we are we are the ones to lay the foundation. Without a domestic worker, I don't think anything can be done. In fact, most of the women who are employed or who are in the informal sector, they always use domestic workers to do each and everything. We find that there are some ladies who really take a domestic worker to be the owner of the home. We really appreciate that those employers who treat their domestic workers as some people who are workers like any other worker. If she's not there, there can't be anything good. Nothing can be done. Even the national itself, we contribute a lot to the nationwide. Okay? So I really urge our employers always to be positive, because these domestic workers, without them, or if we can say, whenever you are laying a foundation of your house, you can't do much unless there is something, you know, what it begins, or whenever you're going to build, we are like the foundation. without us as domestic workers, I don't think that there can be anything to be done. Even you will not have chance to move to your offices. I really appreciate those ones who are on our side. Only that we request for our recognition for domestic work sector should be recognized by government. It's not recognized anywhere. And some people, whenever they hear of a domestic worker, they feel that any domestic worker is illiterate. It's not like that, for my dear. All domestic workers, we have a number. Those who are illiterate, fine. But as of I talk now, most of them are school leave out.
Hanifa, I'm just going to request you to wind up.
Because they can. Yes,
Hanifa,
please.
I'm going to request you to wind up because your 7 minutes are up and we still have quite a number of speakers. So if you can just wind up in 30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. By saying we ask.
Okay, Hanifa, it looks like you have you're on mute. I will quickly request the next. I think you're on mute. I'll quickly request the next speaker, Josephine Sande Amon. She's the secretary of the Naguru Women Vendors Cooperative. Josephine, you have the floor and you have 7 minutes. Kindly, I am timing you. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, Josephine. Go on, please.
Hi, Martha.
Please carry on.
It sounds like it's breaking, so we are not sure we want.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm happy to be with you all this time. I'm called Amon Josephine Sande, a secretary from Naguru Achole Community Cooperative Society. Before I go further, I want to appreciate the government during this lockdown, though it has also affected our businesses. The government also has protected us from this disease. Though the government has protected us from these diseases, it has also affected our income. We do not get the money that we get. Our capital has reduced because the measure the presidential directive has put favor only market vendors who sell the same thing as we do. Also, during this COVID, the domestic violence have increases during this lockdown because achieving provision for households men used to solely provide before lockdown, but now women are the sole breadwinner of many homes. This is a blessing, but a burden as well, because most of our husbands, they are border men, and also our street vendors, they are that's why we have been suffering a lot during this COVID. You find that during this COVID, you find that at time you'll be having capital like 20, you buy things from the market, on your way going to sell, you find maybe of peoples are at home during this COVID. And at the end of the day, you come back with full basket of your items home, and yet you are supposed to put food on the table. Yet our men, some of our men, they are border men, and they are not working. They have stopped them from moving on the street. This also affected us. I want to add on about domestic violence. You know, during this COVID, the domestic violence was too high because most of our men, they are not working, they are at home. And if you ask, like if you reach in the morning, you ask for the money for food, you will end up quarrel with your husband because he's not working. You end up, you people are quarreling in the house during this COVID. So this thing has also affected us. Hello, about domestic violence.
Thank you, Josephine. Thank you. Your 7 minutes are up. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I will now invite Ayebare Sayuni, a flower farm worker, to also share her experience.
Morning.
Good morning, Ayebare. Sorry, if you can kindly speak louder so that we can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Ayebare Sayuni from Exclusive Flower Cuttings. So we as women, we have faced the problem of family neglection. Our men have neglected the families. We are there at the farm working. The money is not enough for our families. So we are suffering. So we ask for that help. At the same time, the women at work, we are suffering. Our bosses can't respect us because we cut. I don't know what is happening. Another thing is we get little time for our children. We don't have enough time for our children. Most especially breastfeeding them, we don't have that time. We are given little time, just like 30 minutes for our children. Another thing, our salaries were deducted, 20% was deducted. So that salary which we are getting is not enough for us. Another thing, our children suffered in this quarantine period. When we went for quarantine, our children suffered, whereby some of the young children, they stopped breastfeeding and nothing they had to do. And then another thing, we have been helped in our contracts. We didn't have the contracts, but now our contracts, they are in process, so we have hope of the contracts. So another thing is we have been helped, it has helped us in coming. They have made several workshops which have helped us to know our rights as women at work.
All right.
Then another thing, you know?
Yes, Sayuni, you can carry on.
Another thing, FIDA has helped us as the women. We are given enough time for maternity leave. We are not given that time, but FIDA has helped us in getting our maternity leave. Then another thing, women at work, we as the farm, we overwork. Overworking, we don't have time for our families.
Sayuni, I would like to presume that you've finished. Thank you so much, Sayuni. And thank you for being open to share a number of the challenges that you've been facing. Can we have Catherine? Catherine Wanyama, you're online right now, so you have the floor. You have 7 minutes, kindly.
Good morning. I'm Catherine Wanyama. Nga nkolera mu katale k'e Nakawa, ndi musuubuzi. Mazeemu emyaka 3. Ndi wano okusharinga ku bintu bye mpiseemu ng'omusuubuzi mu katale k'e Nakawa ebbanga eryo lyonna okuva COVID we yatandika. E Nakawa okuva lwe twatandika, Pulezidenti yagamba nti kati ekyo ekiseera nti abakyala b'e Nakawa, abakyala b'omu katale musule mu butale mugane kuzza bulwadde ewaka. Nasalawo nga nzika Catherine kuba nali nviira wala tewali yantambula, nensalawo nensula mu katale ak'e Nakawa. Naye bannaye kye tulabye mu katale ak'e Nakawa, enkuba bw'etonnya kale mubanga olina w'ogenda okwebaka n'ogamba ne weeyiya n'ogamba nti kati kanzirukire mu hoteri neebake. Tulinayo hoteri ez'omu market, n'ogenda ne weebaka mu hoteri. Omuyinza okubamu abantu nga 3-4, oba oyinza okutambula n'ogenda ne weebaka mu unfinished buildings. Akatale k'e Nakawa kanene kalimu buildings ezinanaba kuggwa, ne weebaka eyo. Kati mu katale k'e Nakawa tetulina kintu ky'ogamba nti bino binaabiro, showrooms teziriyo, waliwo toilets. Olina okugenda very early in the morning kubanga abantu nga basuubuzi tebannayingira. Ogenda n'ogamba nti kanyire naabe, n'ogenda ku ssaawa nga 10 n'otandika okunaaba. Munabira mu toilets nannyini, mw'onaabira oba okyali awo nga munagamba fuluma muluddewo. Ate muba mulina okukeepinga time musobole okukola ki, musobole okugenda mu musuubule ku makya, musobole okukwasa bakasitoma. Obuzibu bwe tufunye nga nze kate bwe nfunye mu kaseera kano aka COVID, okuva lwe baatuggala ne batugamba temudda waka nti mujja kutwalayo endwadde. Me am a single mother of 3 kids. Nafoosingibwa okuba nga abaana mbaleka mu nju bokka. Nina omuwala omukulumuko nga mulekera bane bano abato nsobole okujja okuyiiya n'ekyokulya. Ne babeerayo ebbanga ng'oyinza obalekayo for a full week, n'odduka n'oddayo ogende obalabe bali mu mbeera ki. Kubanga nze ne mutabani wange yali ayonka, kubanga abaana mbayonsa paka myaka 2 n'emyezi 8. Naye natuuka ng'omuwange ebbeere ng'olulala aligaana. Olwava awo bannange ne bampa ku magezi, bangamba naye abaana olinamu n'omuwala omukulu, lwaki wambalekayo mu nju, obeesiga otya? Kubanga era security si yali ey'amaanyi, ebeera at my place. Ne mbasitula ne mbatwala ewa jjajja waabwe, naye ng'era tebakyagala kiri awo. Naye olw'embeera nti nina okunoonya, nze maama, nze taata, nze alina okubaliisa, alina okubanywesa, nabasinga. Kati nga emotionally kyankosa, kubanga nze nali sinyumirwa kuba abaana bange nga mbalekawo ne babeera eyo nga nze ndi eno. Naye olw'embeera nti nali sisobola kgendayo on a daily basis eri abaana bange, ne nsalawo ne mbateeka eri maama wange. Obuzibu bwe tufunye mu katale k'e Nakawa gye nkolera kiri nti obudde obuwungera kati like ekiro, ogenda n'oweeyiya n'ogamba kati ngenda kwebakawa. Oyinza okuba nga wabadde ofunye okwebaka n'osanga omuntu omulala nga yeebase, n'ogamba kati nzizeewa. Ate kati bw'osanga eri toilets nga zijjudde ng'abantu gye bali, kubanga ebiseera bya COVID toys zaatufanga ebiseera ne zijjula nga they get full, nga baba balina ozeebutinga ne baggalawo k'ennaku nga 2. Kati ne bamala ne baggulawo kuba bamala ne bakitereeza, twakyogera ne bamala ne bakitereezaamu. Ekirala ku kyendabye ekyempisiddwa obubi mu katale k'e Nakawa, ebintu byaffe byayonooneka. Ebyenfuna tetukyayingiza, tetukyafuna bakasitoma ekiri awo. Bakasitoma baggwerawo ddala bwe bati. Bakasitoma baggwerawo ddala kubanga ekintu ekyo kyali bwe kiti nga bw'oba otambudde bakasitoma ndooza bakozesa nnyo bano abaana ba middlemen bano nga be basindika kati abaana baba basindika bo baba olw'okwagala babeeko kye bafuna genda mu balimi bennyini ne batajja eno ewaffe ku midaala kati neba nga income ekoze eki ekendeddemu n'ekirala kabeerera ddala nga bw'oki kati ekyo nakyo ne kitukosa ate ekirala okuva lwe twakola ki ebintu covid bino tukendeezaamu kubanga kati wali twagendanga n'ofuna bamanerenda ne bakuwola kasente n'ogendayo naye era nga interest rate gye batuwa nnene nnyo 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 kuba emitwalo 25 gye bakuwa for just 1 month emitwalo 25 gye bakuwa bagamba oyongeremu emitwalo rate yaabwe kyokka nga ate kwezo bakusabye omutwalo gwa forms bakusabye then n'omutwalo ogw'okujjuza forms ogenda okwekanga nga ssente z'otaddemu interest rate yaabwe ebeera mitwalo 7 ku mitwalo nga 25 kati ekyo ne kitukosa nnyo naye kati kati ekyembadde nsaba n'ekirala waliyo abakyala wadde baatugamba nti tudde ewaffe naye waliwo abakyala balemedde mu katale nga tebasobola kuddayo ewaka ng'aviira wala ng'aviira nga kayunga gy'abadde aviira okujja eno nga transport costs nnene nnyo engeri gye bagamba nti taxi etuuza abantu batono nnyo transport costs nga nnene nnyo nga talina ngeri gy'addamu era they are still there struggling kati kyembadde nsaba nga nze Kathy ng'omuntu nti kino kigenda mu bakasitoma mu Kampala bonna around Kampala nti mu downloading app yaffe waliwo app aba IST gye batandikirawo eri market garden app at least omudownloading app eyo osobola otuwa emirimu otugolokoke ate n'ekirala nkubiriza gavumenti babampulira nti batwe ku buyambi at least nga sente nga capital eyo at least oyo kisoboka tuyinza okuzayo ka interest rate akatono ne bamane lenders nkubuulire nange mwenyini ne saa zino kati ennaku zaaweddeyo mba mpulira ddala nga nfa ngamba kati omusajja sente ze tezinnaggwayo akyamumanja sente nnyingi kale kyembadde nsaba
Hello, Catherine.
I think she's frozen. I think we can go on.
Catherine, Wevale, I think I'll just quickly go through, since she was speaking in Luganda, just summarize what she was talking about. So Catherine is a market vendor, and she spoke about how she was one of the ladies that slept in the market during the lockdown. She spoke about issues of, where to put her head to sleep. There were issues of rain and how they had to take refuge in unfinished buildings. She also spoke about her experience leaving her 3 children at home alone, and left them in the care of her older child. Catherine, okay. And then she also spoke about how eventually she had to send them to their grandmother, and she also spoke about the emotional trauma. And something very pertinent that she also spoke about was how many of them have had to take loans from money lenders, and what that process has meant, and how their interest rates are too high and hefty. I think last but not least, I think she also spoke about the cost of transport for those that are not able to make it to the markets. And then she also, she brought up the market garden app, which has been put in place to provide some sort of sustainability for their trade within the market setting. So because we do not have enough time, I'm going to now request Flavia Amoding, to take the floor. Flavia is the program officer of Uganda Workers Education Association. And Flavia, I would like to invite you to really speak broadly about how, about the abuse of workers' rights in the informal economy. How has this manifested? And then speak about what strategies need to be adopted to ensure that the rights of informal laborers are prioritized. Flavia, you have just 20 minutes.
Hello?
Yes, Flavia, we can hear you. Please carry on.
Okay, thank you very much, Martha. I am speaking on behalf of Labu as the chairperson of Labu. Yeah, and I'd like to begin by saying that the informal economy has been growing very fast from the 1970s. And according to UBO's paper of 2014, of the 7.3 million households in Uganda, 2.4 million, that is 32%, have an informal business, and 90% of the working population outside agriculture are in the informal economy. Street vendors constitute the largest group of informal workers operating in the visible but highly contested domain, that is the public space in the city, putting them into some disadvantage because authorities do not recognize them. And for lack of proper planning and even recognition by the authorities, vendors locate themselves in certain areas, strategic points, with heavy human traffic and motorists. The vendors now go to the main roads, the streets, new shopping centers, and corners where they can be spotted by the pedestrians and motorists. Now, the informal workers are also not protected by labor legislation, and majority are referred to as self-employed, casual workers in the formal settings. Majority of these were affected by the total lockdown measures or policies issued by the government to curb the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Many lost their jobs. The self-employed, especially those dealing with perishables, lost capital with little or no money to depend on or even to continue, because there was also a restriction to, for them to sell their goods. But we came on board, it's some time back there in March, I think, or April, where we asked government to ease that kind of measure on the street vendors. And we saw them coming back on the street. Nevertheless, because they had lost income, they had lost goods and so on, their families were put in danger of hunger. Their families were also put in a situation where there's going to be loggerheads between maybe the woman and the wife and the husband at home, whereby domestic violence actually increased during that time. The informal economy workers, even right now, are less protected by social protection measures, including medical insurance and other forms of income or income smoothing. And this further predisposes them to higher risks of contracting the virus. Even right now, if you walk on the streets, you will see that they do not, most of them do not have masks. Yeah. And the lockdown or closure of workplaces, including public spaces and markets, where a majority of street and market vendors work, meant no work and no income. That means infringement to their basic right to life and work, lack of income, and this implies that families won't feed, provide for health care, pay rent, rendering these important citizens destitute and more vulnerable, as majority of them are women who head households, even children that head homes, widows, youth, elderly, and the disabled, and many others, as you can maybe enumerate them. But those are the few that I've put down. Now, we think that for these people, in fact, if I may talk about the workers that casual laborers, informal entities, most of these casual laborers lost their jobs during that time of lockdown. In many sectors, sometimes they were sent home without money, actually without pay, and they have lost jobs, meaning that they were not recruited again or allowed to come back again. That means that the life of that person has really been put in a big disadvantage. Yeah. Now, we recommend that policy responses should focus on two immediate goals or short-term goals. That is health protection measures and economic support on both the demand and supply. One, informal workers and their families should be protected from health risks of COVID-19, as majority get into large numbers of people. We propose introduction and strengthening of occupational health, OSH, occupational health and safety of workers at workplace and communities where they reside, including one, provision of protective equipment, that is masks, gloves, washing points, soap and sanitizers, and testing kits, and many others that can be availed. Number two, they should other hygiene procedures and forms of work organization supported by information and awareness campaigns. Awareness campaigns should be at the forefront, really, that we may spearhead in the future, because this COVID is here and may take long to disappear or to go away. Timely, large-scale
Flavia, are you there? I think your network is disrupting.
Martha, I realized, so sorry, Betty Lunkuse, we actually missed Betty from the testimonials. Yeah, from the home-based workers network. So maybe as Flavia is sorting out her connection issues, Betty can go ahead.
Betty. Okay, that's not a problem. Betty, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Just want to make sure she's online. Betty Lunkuse?
Yes, I'm here. Hello? Are you hearing me?
Yes, Betty.
Hello?
Hello, yes, Betty, we can hear you.
Yes. Yes, let me start right away.
Hello?
I'm Betty Lunkuse. I'm a home-based worker. from a group called Envaljules, where we do make jewelry with baskets and other crafts. We are members of a network called Home-Based Workers in Uganda, a network representing over 100 members, mostly women. When the lockdown was effected, immediately, its effect became evident to us as home-based workers. We did communicate as leaders to reach out to members from the grassroots to share with us the experiences they were facing due to the pandemic. Collectively, we did document the experiences into an open statement, which we addressed to different officials in the government, demanding for help. So I share these experiences I've faced personally, but also presenting experiences of other members as they did share in our open statement. We had effects on health and safety. We faced high cost of medical treatment due to the ban of public transport, and currently the triple fares for public transport. Domestic violence and gender-based violence increased. Then poor accommodation, as in some of our members had to sleep in marketplaces. We had effect on income and food security, where we faced hardship acquiring loans to be able to buy basic needs. These loans came with high interest rates. Then the burden of rental payment and debt payment. There was loss of income as contracts were cancelled and markets closed. Accessing relief packages provided by government is still a hearsay to some of our members. Then communication, we had effects on our communication and information. Ban on public transport made us to have no access to go and buy raw materials and to reach our customers. Home-based workers were not mentioned as essential workers. That meant that we didn't have a backup document for travel to go and share skills with other members. So we really had that effect upon us. No daily income. This made our information and communication to be a burden, as data rates are now very costly and airtime is now less affordable. Then also language barrier. You find that messages concerning COVID-19 are in foreign language and not in our local languages. So it takes time for home-based workers to really get to understand what the information is all about, which creates more risk to the disease. And our education effects on education. Currently, home-based workers are complementing government program of teaching children by passing on basic skills like farming, making briquettes, weaving, and this has kind of come in like a positive effect in a way. Then on agriculture, most of the home-based workers have been kept busy by engaging in agriculture, small scale farming. And this has helped to reduce levels of domestic violence as ladies or men keep busy in the gardens. However, this has been interrupted by the pests which have invaded our gardens, creating a risk to our food security. Then we had effects on the financial services. Most of the group members no longer save as there is no daily income. Our employers and contractors halted our orders and orders were cancelled. This has threatened hope of economic stabilities and any future of chance of employment. I'll go in straight to what our key demands are to the government. Well, while the information in our statement is clear and the demands are concise and achievable, governments are yet to respond to to our demands. So our key demand to the government is for the government to acknowledge through different ministries our demands and respond to them specifically, especially to women needs. And what we demand among those key issues are health and safety measures, like the government should provide access to medical facilities and access to sanitizers and masks, and also reduce undergrowing dangers of gender-based violence. For income and food security measures, we request government to include sick pay for informal workers, and also access us to credit and interest-free loans, and more support to urban agriculture, and fair contracts for home-based workers who make masks and scrubs for hospitals. And via communication, our key message to government is enhancement, like reducing the cost of electricity, information technology, devices, and reduce the internet taxes like the OTT, so that we are able to afford communication and information services. Then our measure for education is to request government to support homeschooling by providing the necessary learning materials that we can use to teach our children at home. Yeah, that's it.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you so much, Betty, and apologies again for missing you out when we're getting the testimonials. We shall definitely be able to reflect on a number of the challenges that you've shared and also the recommendations. Flavia, I don't know if your connection is clear. I wanted to just give you 3 more minutes because we are running behind time. And I really need to give Hope a chance to speak as well before we get into a discussion. Flavia, 3 minutes kindly.
I was actually on the recommendations or strategies that we should employ to ensure that these workers enjoy their work. I talked about strengthening of occupational safety and health at work. We think that there should be protective equipment provided to these workers, like masks, gloves, washing point, soap, and sanitizers, including testing kits, and other hygiene procedures and forms of work organization supported by information and awareness campaigns. And we think that we should be able to spearhead the awareness campaigns, particularly on this COVID situation, and also on areas that they need, and also on, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, and also on the areas where they need support. We also need timely, large-scale coordinated policy to be taken to provide employment and income support. Why this cushions enterprises and workers against sudden employment and income losses. It helps to prevent a chain of supply shocks, e.g. decline in demand and supply, stocked goods going to waste, that leads to prolonged economic recession. Number 3, provide time-bound financial relief and income smoothing measures to support business continuity and subsidies. Credit mediation, refinancing to overcome liquidity constraints. There is also need for government to include informal economy in the national budget and redesign skilling programs for informal economy workers through groups of workers. within similar interests. For example, if we take up the women that sell fruits and vegetables, they could be reskilled on how they can process these fruits better, rather than having them, you know, like now when they lost some of these things. That if it was processed, they would have been able to even sell them at better prices. And for example, even those that deal with maize, if they have an interest of ensuring that they can enter into organization and ensure that they get maize, they can actually produce better finished products of maize and sell them at higher prices. And also, I would like to say that Pilavu was involved in advocating for a policy for informal economy workers at the KCCA level. But this has dragged on and on. We don't know, maybe because of the COVID, we have not been able to follow up and ensure that this policy is properly addressed and would be beneficial to the informal economy workers. So therefore, there is need for regulatory policy framework to create cohesion with the authorities. And we had gone ahead to form a committee that would negotiate with these authorities on issues concerning the informal economy workers, especially the street vendors, yeah, and maybe market vendors. Okay, and we also provided tarpaulins at Nakawa Market during the COVID lockdown, that period of lockdown, at least to help them be in a better shelter. And some few sanitizers we gave them. Thank you for now. That is what I can present, since you gave me only 3 minutes. Thank you, Martha.
All right, thank you so much, Flavia, and thank you for really giving us an insight on the work that you're doing with Uganda Workers Education Association, UWEA, and also PLAVU. It's impressive to hear what kind of response you had for the market vendors. You talked about the tarpaulins in Nakawa Market. I also recognize that there's a number of policy actions that we need to pick up on, especially when you talk about like the street traders ordinance that was still in debate. So a number of those policies need to be revived. Rather, a lot of the advocacy needs to be revived on those on that policy front. I think we shall get back to a number of issues that you brought back, but last but not least, Hope, I'm really sorry that you come last and you have quite restricted time to give your presentation, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to manage within that time that has been allocated. Hope Katwine is the Vice Chairperson of Kampala City Traders Association, better known as CASITA, and she's also the chair of the Women's League. Hope is really going to give her intervention around what the economic impact of COVID has been on the members of CASITA. Maybe you can give us some numbers, some statistics to shed more light on how the situation is, so you can talk about the number of businesses that have been shut down, how much revenue has been lost. Also, I would invite you to speak about what kind of coping mechanisms have been put in place by the businesses during this lockdown, and also as the lockdown was being lifted. And then you can also chime into what kind of demands CASITA has for the government to ensure that that the informal economy recovers during this time. Hope you have less than 20 minutes. I honestly want to give you like between 15 and 16 minutes. You have the floor, Hope.
Thank you, moderator. Are you hearing me?
Yes, you're clear. Please carry on.
As you have introduced me, I'm not. I'm the vice chairperson of CASITA, and I lead the CASITA Women Entrepreneurial Kawel. Today, I'm here to speak on behalf of CASITA because let it be a woman or a man, it's everything that it affects all of them. I'll start by introduction. CASITA Uganda is a business support association that was first registered in 2001 and re-registered in 2009 as CASITA Uganda. So it covers now the whole of Uganda. It has about 200 members. The main aim is to facilitate trade, bring together the business community. We have two main categories of members. We have ordinary members, who are the majority of our members. They constitute about like, I think like 90%. And then the second category is corporate members. And these corporate members, those are big companies actually who supply goods to our ordinary members or services. We have like banks, we have like factories, we have like insurance companies, and I would say the owner of Akeda, some of them also are our members. According to our estimates, you asked me about to provide the numbers of those who may be affected. But our estimates that like 50% of our members will be affected really by this lockdown. And I think 54% of small and medium enterprises will face the collapse. And actually the demand will also reduce by 60%. I have little time. I'll go straight to the questions. What are the economic effects of COVID-19 on our members? There was loss of capital. Actually, majority of our members lost capital because when this lockdown came, many of our members who run shops, they immediately closed the shops. There was no movement, there was no business taking place, and the goods were locked in their shops. They were not working. Of course, when you are not working, you don't have any profit or what, but they kept on spending. on maybe on personal purposes, like paying for water, paying for all these utilities, hospitals, and all that. And then another thing, the loans. Majority have loans, as you know. In many businesses, you can't avoid borrowing, and they kept on the loans kept on running, so they would get the money on their accounts to pay for interest on their loans. So which means there is loss of capital. And another thing, some of them, their goods were spoiled in the shops. Those who were dealing with expired things like those products that expire, others have expired, and so really that they have lost capital. Another thing, they have lost market. These people, some of our members, have been importers from different countries, and they have they have clients from the region, like Burundi, Rwanda, and even other countries like Ethiopia. But because of the restrictions of movement, the close of borders, the markets have been lost, and they are not working at all. However, those are I think are negative impacts on our members. But then there are also, allow me to share with you also some of positive impacts. There are those who were dealing in tailoring, who had the sewing machines, who were trying to make in that smaller factories actually, and they have make money through making masks, and even those ones who were making liquid soaps or what, they have made sanitizers, and some have registered actually that they have made they have improved on their businesses. And also it has also changed. Actually, this COVID-19 lockdown has also changed the mindset of our traders. You know, someone when she's dealing in something, she doesn't want you to let's say when someone is an importer, a trader in the shop, he doesn't want to look at like farming, but now people have adjusted. People have adjusted, and people have started to change their mindset. And another thing also, they have started using trade. They have started to trade online, which was not also being done before. Another question you asked me is what has been the coping mechanism of these businesses. One is they have adopted to trade online, and thinking of diversification, as I have already said. And you asked me also about what the role has Casita played we have been on TVs, we have been advocating really for traders. This lockdown, the shops were closed, and the landlords, they wanted people as much as the tenants were not working, but the landlords needed money, needed their rent. And the landlords also were saying that they have loans, big loans with the banks, which the banks did not also waive the interest rates. And really, we have negotiations from the toppest office to down, and it has yielded some positive results, because at least some landlords, some of them have reduced, and others have waived, and we are still negotiating. Another thing is to also sensitize our members to adopt the SOPs, because now they are putting SOPs that should be followed for the arcades to be opened, and it's our organization that is sensitizing that is sensitizing the tenants and arcade owners. And another thing, we've been lobbying government to put stimulus financial packages to help businesses from collapsing. Actually, this one is, of course, with our banks, the interest rates we all know is too high. But if the government is to really to protect these small businesses, it is to help them, and then they get money at a very low interest rate, and we have been lobbying for that. And I think there is when we met the high office, there is money in UDB, money in microfinance support center, but we have to sensitize our people, and even how to get it. It's also things here in our country. It is easier to be said than to be done. So we have to follow it up and see that really some of our members are benefiting out of this. And if I'm to talk about the four demands that we want from the government and local government, the four demands, the first one I would say is to ask the government to provide to provide us to people, to train our members, our business community, to learn effectively how to trade online, because change. And even this, even if this COVID-19 is gone, we need to adopt that that trade online and be competitive with other nations. The majority of our members are computer illiterate. We need to train, and I ask government to train trainers. We have sectors. If the government can train trainers, and we train the trainers. Trainers are the head of the sectors. so they can train their members. Because in the future, these things, people will benefit out of this and others will lose. We are not yet there, where I have interacted with other organizations like in Zambia, even Kenya here. I think people are ahead of us. And the majority of our traders, of our members, they need more training, really. And another thing, another key demand that I would ask the government is intervene. And when the central bank lowers its lending rate, let the commercial banks also reduce on their lending rates. This, even if the central bank reduces on its lending rate, the commercial banks continue to ask for whatever they want. And you know, majority of our people, the majority of our people, they don't read, they don't get that full information. So you find at times they are cheated. And it's also, another demand I would ask is also about the government organizations like URA, KCCA, to take private sector as partners, their partners, not as people every time when they want to do anything, they should be. Instead of enforcing, they should make negotiations. So we ask more, especially URA, to train members, understand how to pay taxes, but instead of putting in enforcement, this enforcement section, I think it takes a lot of money than how they could be training people to understand how to pay taxes. At the same time with KCCA, you see many enforcement officers on the streets, but it needs to educate people. Say, please don't do ABC, but instead of putting those enforcement officers on the streets, and that's a lot of money. So I think that's my submission. Thank you so much for asking me to participate in this discussion. Thank you, Moderator Martha.
Thank you so much, Hope. Thank you for a very enlightening presentation. You have brought to light your experiences within the CASITA setting, and I believe that a number of the issues that you've brought up must be taken forward. I would like to, because we only have 15 minutes, and I really would like to open up the floor to interventions in response to all the speakers, including the ladies that shared their testimonials. We have, we've had, I think, a very good spread of discussions on experiences and also recommendations and some very specific demands. I would like to invite, let me see, I had seen some interventions. Let me just scroll through the comments. Yes, we have Agnes Mugabe, who spoke about the language barrier when we're talking about these campaigns on sensitizing people about about COVID-19, but but it was more of a Luganda comment. So many people are facing, many people are being left behind because of the language barrier when it comes to these programs by government. And she specifically spoke about the health sector. I would like to invite any interventions. Maybe Leah, you can help if there are people who are raising their hands. I don't know if I have that.
I don't see any hands raised, but there are some comments in the chat box that maybe we can share. There's something from Deborah Nalwoga, who echoes a lot of what has been said by the panelists, which is around clearing interest on loans and enforcing loan rescheduling. I think we've heard from a lot of people about, first of all, being vulnerable to the practices of money lenders, but also the fact that banks have not been as responsive. Hope spoke specifically about how as much as the central bank has actually lowered the lending rate, commercial banks have not followed suit. But I think must have been about 2 weeks ago or about a week ago, there was another statement from the central bank actually saying that perhaps they are going to have to be a bit more heavy-handed, because before that it was just a recommendation to the banks, and they're saying that perhaps they're going to enforce. I see Sayuni Ayebare has raised her hand, but before she jumps in, I had seen a comment. I think that was in response to what Hope from Casita presented. Hope had said that one of the opportunities that has arisen is that, some people who used to do a lot of tailoring, there's been a new opportunity created for making masks. And one of the comments that I saw, but I can't find it now, had said that actually a number of people, have you seen it, Martha?
Yeah, so she's saying, a number of tailors, have lost out on mask production. Is that the one that you, and I don't know if that's the one where she's talking about how best can they be helped to access them.
Yes, their machines are still being locked up. And I had actually hoped that you'd give us an update that there are actually some arcades that have now been opened. That was one of the key demands of Casita. And I think, was it yesterday? There were some arcades that were opened. Of course, some of them still remain locked. And as this person has said, people actually do not have the access to their instruments to help them actually conduct their work. But let me just unmute Sayuni so that she can make her submission. Her hand is up.
Hello. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Can go ahead.
Okay. Another point, it is like I'm a woman working at the flower farm. The problems we are meeting, we have this torture by security men because we are caught up by curfew. Curfew time, it's fine us when we are still at work. So when we are heading home, that is also a problem to us. Another thing, we are affected by transport means. For us, we have been using border borders, but they are not allowed to carry people. So we put, it is also a problem to us. So we are facing another problem of rent payments, electricity bills, whereby we don't have enough money for paying them because we also got a challenge at work. Then family breakdown. Most of the women have lost families because of the COVID. The men they have run out of the homes, and now the women, they are the ones taking care of everything. Children, and remember now they are not schooling, many things are needed, which is also a problem.
Yes, thank you so much, Sayuni. Yes, you're talking about, curfew holdups, which means that you're not able to get back to your homes in time. The issue of transport, and also a lot of this transport is not even in accessible areas. So where people depended
where people depended on borders, now they either have to walk that distance and then find a taxi to get home. You've talked about rent payment, and also a very pertinent issue, which is the breakdown of family and how many families are being disintegrated. So I think those were more of a comment. Stephen Odaro, you have your hand up. Could you kindly speak?
Yes, please. Thank you very much for this great debate that you have put forward. I just want to congratulate you to Akina Mama, FES, and the moderator of the day. But I also want to thank the panelists for the great job you have done in articulating the critical concerns that we all see as far as the informal economy is concerned. I just wanted to flag off or 2 or 3 particular points, especially in regards to the aspects of really the tenure rights, because of this pandemic has really exposed our duty bearers, the government, especially in how best they can be able to share. How are they utilizing public space in a manner that is benefiting? How do we reimagine the use of public space in order to ensure that actually the communities, the people, the city dwellers inclusively benefit? We've seen the deficits in infrastructure. I just want to recognize Kathy's contribution from Nakawa Market and share a little bit more, because when we were actually interviewing them in that particular critical season when there were restrictions, we noted that there were very many critical issues affecting women in particular, especially the issues of health and safety. Really, that was a very critical concern: lack of toilets, lack of bathrooms, and the numbers in terms of the ratio of the toilets vis-a-vis the number of the vendors who were restricted to spending nights in the markets. Then also you noticed that the sleeping conditions, because not everyone is able to afford space in the market which is decent or a stall. So most of them were equal actually, sleeping outside. They were exposed to a lot of environmental risks, especially rains. You could see mosquitoes. So there were other issues that came along through this impact. So we need to really debate more and interrogate the issue of public space and access to infrastructure for especially informal workers. Otherwise, this has really exposed this particular concern. But also wanted to thank the CASITA team, the panelists who presented the CASITA concern. But there's one thing in the work that we've been doing in PLAB is to actually strengthen social dialogue and working with these other entities or business entities in order to the different actors. We are seeing that there is still a gap between the CASITA level of membership and the informal workers. So how do we therefore bridge that gap so that the informal workers can be also part, they can be recognized as part or rather as the contributors to the general well-being of CASITA members. So we need to bridge that gap so that we know that there are backward and forward linkages between both the formal and the informal businesses, so that there is harmony, but also CASITA should be able to amplify also the concerns of the informal business operators, and this in particular, of course, the street vendors and the market vendors. So there are those things that we need to interrogate and strengthen. But also there was a particular concern of home-based workers who raised the issue of the government not responding. I think this is general. Government is still adamant in regards to this kind of sector, and these are the issues we need to really work strongly, because how best can we make these voices heard? There are those particular demands informal workers have had all along. The aspect of organizing workers in order to build voice. Without voice, definitely we're going to have issues. So I believe that we need to strengthen our collective negotiations and also strengthening organizing of workers. because that way we shall have a voice and have visibility.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, so
Steve,
briefly,
sorry to cut you. Hello, okay. Sorry to cut you short. Thank you for your intervention. Sorry, I've cut you short. We are now managing very little time. I'll quickly ask Agnes Mugabe. You had an intervention. If you can kindly keep it to less than a minute, that would be great, so that we can have the next one. Agnes. Agnes, I think you have typed your question, so maybe I'll just go ahead and read it. Can government be urged to engage or resort to local organizations in distributing government protective items, e.g. the masks, on its behalf to minimize the politics in this? So, I mean, this is a question / comment. I don't know if there is anyone from the panel that would want to respond to this. Hope, maybe just Hope Katwine. Hope, would you like to respond to this question? Just in less than a minute. Hope, did you hear the question?
Which one?
So the question was saying, can government be urged to engage or resort to local organizations in distributing government protective items like the masks, just so that we minimize the politics in this? Is that a possibility? That's a question from Agnes.
Is this towards me?
No, I kind of just picked on you so that we can get somewhat from the panelists, or I can ask someone else.
I think there is this lockdown, I mean COVID-19 committee that is under the Prime Minister's office. I think those are the people who are handling this, and many things we have seen that have not they should have been done, but I think it would help for local government, or for those LC ones and all those to engage in distributing the masks, so that they know that they are people on the grassroots. That's what I can say.
All right. Thank you, Hope. Lee, I think I have only 1 minute, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there was, sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay, there was one last question from Nathan Keja. Perhaps I can just read it to. So does PSFU or any other organization represented here do sensitization about formalization of business entities in the informal sector? This would be a very good question for Hope Kasimbazi from Will.
I'm ready to answer. Can I answer
the question? Yes,
yes,
please.
I had the question. We do have at Private Sector Foundation in Uganda, which is the apex body for the private sector, the mandate is capacity building, and we always want to make sure that people get to know the terms and reference of doing business. So we conduct some trainings. We always hold some workshops, business expos, and so on and so forth. But still at the office, we have business specialists. If someone came there, would be able to look for one of the officers to guide that gentleman.
Thank you, Hope.
Pleasure.
So I don't think we have any I don't think we have any other questions or comments, and we are at 1 o'clock on that dot. I would like to give
I cannot. Hello, Martha.
Yes.
I can also answer for this next one. Of many small business owners don't know how to formalize and why they should. We've been, as Kasita Uganda, we've been engaging URSB, and so those we've been helping those small businesses to register, formalize, and they to know actually why it is important to do so. So we've also been doing that.
Thank you very much, Hope. So I would like to really bring this this very good conversation to a close, unfortunately. But I hope that there will be many more conversations like this to build on what has and what we have discussed. A very big hello, I don't know if you can hear me. A very big thank you to the panelists. Thank you all. Thank you to the ladies that shared their experiences, those that are working in the informal economy. We appreciate you being very open about how stark the reality of being active in the informal economy is, especially during this time when we are dealing with COVID-19. I believe that Akina Mama Africa and Friedrich Ebert Stiftung would see it very important to see how a lot of the recommendations that have been brought up in this space can be, consolidated and presented to the necessary, duty bearers and policy makers. Thank you very much. We know that also time is of essence. I don't know, Akina Mama Africa, if you had any final comments as the organizer of this webinar before we close off.
Yes, thank you, Martha, for leading a really great discussion. And I think that the most important thing is always documenting people's experiences, using their own voices, and giving them platforms to be able to express themselves, to tell their stories best. And that is what we intended to achieve with this webinar. And I think that we've been able to document the experiences of women across the board, perhaps those that are with a bit more privilege and power in spaces like Kasita and You Will, and also those with less power, like those in markets and those working as street vendors and those within the home. And so it's really important to then also see how different the experiences are, for people at You Will saying that, they appreciate the government's response to the pandemic, and women in markets and street vendors saying that perhaps there's something that could have been done better. I'd like to re-echo a point that was made by Stephen O'Darrow, which is around organizing, strengthening and amplifying workers' voices and workers' rights. I think that is one of the weaknesses that the workers' movement as a whole in Uganda has. And it's one of those things that is going to have to be strengthened. We need to be able to achieve critical mass so that then workers, no matter how little money they make within the business community, so that they can be seen as bona fide constituents that deserve a seat at the table, and that the government should actually listen to and take into great consideration when developing policies and laws. And very lastly, a lot of information has also been shared around formalization of business. And sometimes we always want to challenge the idea of formalization of businesses as being the fix-it-all, the silver bullet to the realization of workers' rights. As you can see, even people in the formal sector actually have their rights abused. What we are saying is that the process of formalization of businesses has its advantages, but it's important that no matter where workers are located within the business community, their rights should actually be respected, because they are contributing to the growth of the economy. They are people and human beings in their own right, and that should be enough to have their rights respected. So I think that should be also a great point to take away home. So I'll just thank everybody that made the time. I know everyone woke up and it was raining and probably maybe either stayed in bed, but you know, things are really difficult now. Probably people didn't stay in bed, went out to do business, but also made time to come here and speak with us and share experiences and strategize on how we can take this forward. What we'll do is now we'll put all these submissions into a document and then look for the critical stakeholders to whom these demands have been directed and make sure that they get to hear this. So thank you, Martha. Thank you, FES, for being our fantastic partners all the time and convening such spaces for people that normally do not get such an audience to be able to air out their grievances and also collectively strategize. Thank you and have a great rest of the week to everybody that has tuned in. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.